Lieutenant Mara Holt stood outside the containment room with her hand resting against the glass wall, watching the cub walk in circles, step after step.
Ouse.
Slow at first, then faster. Always the same path. The floor beneath her paws was worn down from the constant movement. The cub had been doing this for 17 days. No sleep, almost no food, just walking. The medical display beside the door blinked quietly, heart rate unstable, stress hormones off the charts. If nothing changed, she would be dead in less than a week. The cub was small, barely the size of a large dog. The ash-colored fur and wide amber eyes that never seemed to focus on anything in the room. She was the last survivor of her species' transport vessel. Collision, a fire. 200 members of her pack gone in minutes. She survived only because she had been asleep in a reinforced nursery pod. Since then, no one had been able to reach her. Not the medics, not the translators. Not even members of her own species brought in from other worlds. Every attempt ended the same way. Fear, aggression, more pacing. Dr. Keene stood beside Mara, his arms folded, voice low and tired. Her body isn't injured, he said, but her mind is tearing her apart. Stress toxicity. Her system was never meant to be alone this long. Pack species don't survive isolation. He paused, then added, "We've tried everything. Potatives barely work. Relocation failed. Her people believe she's already gone, just waiting for her body to follow." Mara didn't answer right away. She kept watching the cub. Every few seconds, the cub glanced toward the walls, sniffing the air as if hoping a familiar scent might suddenly appear, as if her family might be just out of sight. "So what you're saying," Mara said quietly, "is that everyone has tried to fix her?" Dr. Keene nodded. "Yes," Mara swallowed, "and no one has tried to understand her." That was why Mara was here. She wasn't a doctor or a soldier. She was a behavioral specialist, brought in when nothing else worked. She had spent weeks observing from a distance, recording patterns, learning what little data existed about the species. But the truth was simple and cruel. This cub wasn't sick in the usual way. She was grieving, and her people didn't have a word for grief that lasted this long. In their culture, loss was survived by joining a new pack. If that failed, the survivor was considered broken. "Get me clearance to go inside," Mara said. Dr. Keene turned. Sharply? "Absolutely not. She's attacked for handlers." "Then I'll be the fifth," Mara replied. The field dropped with a soft hum. The cub stopped pacing instantly. Her body stiffened. Fur bristled. A low growl vibrated from deep in her chest. Mara walked in slowly and sat down on the floor, legs crossed, far enough away to give space. She didn't speak. She didn't move. She just sat there. The cub watched her, every breath. Every blink, minutes passed. Then an hour. The growl never stopped, but it never grew louder either. Finally, Mara spoke. "I lost my family too." The cub froze. Mara didn't look away. "I was 9. A flood. One night, everything was normal. The next morning, everyone was gone." Her voice stayed calm, steady. "People kept telling me to talk, to heal, to move on. They said feeling better meant I was getting stronger." Cub took one slow step closer. "But I didn't want to feel better," Mara continued, "because feeling better meant accepting they were really gone. If I accepted that, it felt like I was leaving them behind. So I stopped sleeping, stopped eating. I stayed busy, because if I stopped, I would feel it, and I was afraid that feeling would kill me." The cub's growl faded into silence. Her body trembled. "They tried to give you a new pack," Mara said softly, "but a new pack doesn't replace the old one, does it? Your mother's scent? Your siblings' sounds? Those aren't things you can swap out." The cub let out a broken sound, high and sharp. "Not anger, pain. You're not walking because you're broken," Mara said. "You're walking because you're searching. Every step, you're hoping this time you'll find them. At this time, it was all a mistake." The cub collapsed onto the floor and cried out. A raw, aching sound that filled the room. Mara stayed where she was. She didn't reach out. She didn't stop the sound. She let it exist. When the cries finally faded into weak whimpers, Mara spoke again. "They aren't coming back," she said gently, "and that's not fair. But it's true." The cub lifted her head. Her eyes were wet. "Where I come from." Mara continued, "We don't forget our dead so we can survive. We remember them. We carry them with us. It hurts, but it keeps them close." Over the next few days, Mara did something no one had thought to try. She asked the cub about her pack. Slowly, patiently, with pauses and silence, she learned their names, their roles, the way they slept in a pile, the sound her mother made when she was afraid. Mara recorded everything. She helped build a small memorial space, symbols, images, a place to remember. The elders protested. This was not their way. But the cub began to change. She slept. The pacing stopped. Weeks later, she allowed another pack to approach her, not to replace her family, but to hear about them, to know they existed. Months later, she chose to join them, and every year after that, her new pack gathered in silence. They spoke the names of the dead, they remembered, because a human taught them something simple, that moving forward does not mean letting go, that sometimes the only way to survive loss is to carry it with you. Years passed, the cub was longer, small, ash-gray fur had deepened into a darker silver, streaked with scars earned from running fast and learning late. Her shoulders were broader now, her movements steady and sure. She moved at the front of the pack, not because she demanded it, but because the others naturally followed when she chose a direction. She had grown into a leader without realizing it. But every year, on the same date, everything stopped. The pack gathered before sunrise on the ridge overlooking the plains. No hunting, no play, no training. The younger ones didn't complain anymore. They had learned that this day was different, important. The air was always quiet then, as if the world itself was listening. In the center of the circle sat the memorial. Stones, each one marked with symbols carved by claw and stylus. Names, shapes, lines that told stories only the pack fully understood. The Kubno. The leader stood before them and lowered her head. She spoke first. She spoke the names of her mother and father, of her siblings. She spoke slowly, carefully, as if each word had weight. The pack repeated the names after her, their voices overlapping, carrying the sound outward into the open sky. Some of the younger pack members didn't understand why they did this. They had never met the lost pack. They had never smelled their fur or heard their howls. One year, a young one finally asked, "Why do we remember those who are gone?" The pup said, "Doesn't it hurt?" The leader was quiet for a long moment. "Yes," she answered. "It hurts." She looked at the stones. "But it hurts because they mattered. And if we stop remembering, then they disappear twice." The pack listened. They always did. Later that day, when the rituals were done and the pack had returned to their normal rhythms, a visitor arrived. A human vessel touched down near the settlement, small and quiet. The leader felt it before she saw it. A familiar presence, memory, that smelled like rain and warmth and patience. Mara Holt stepped onto the ground, older now. Lines traced her face. Her hair had more gray than before. But her eyes were the same. The leader approached slowly. No fear. No tension. They sat together in the shade, side by side, watching the pack move through the tall grass. No containment. Fields. No guards. Just space. "She's strong," Mara said softly. "She learned how," the leader replied. Mara smiled. "I never knew if I did the right thing." The leader turned her head slightly. "You didn't save me," she said. "You let me stay." Mara exhaled, a sound halfway between a laugh and a breath she had been holding for years. That night, as the stars came out, the pack howled, not in mourning, not in pain, but in remembrance. The sound carried far across the land, and far away in places no one could see, those who were lost were carried forward once more. Not as ghosts, but as love that never ended. The seasons continued to turn, slow and steady, the way they always had. Rain came and went. Grass grew tall, then dry, then tall again. The pack adapted, learned new paths, new hunting grounds, new dangers. Under Ashka's guidance, they became known not just for strength, but for something rarer. They remembered. When disputes rose between packs, Ashka listened longer than others expected. When a young one froze after losing a littermate to illness, she didn't push them forward. She sat with them. She stayed. The elders noticed. Some approved quietly, others worried. "This way makes the pack soft," one elder said during a council gathering. Too much looking back, Ashka did not bristle or growl. She simply answered, "We look back so we know who we are when we move forward." Not all accepted that answer. Some packs chose distance, others watched closely. Years later, disaster struck another transport. Smaller than the one Ashka survived. Fewer lives lost, but enough. One survivor remained. A young cub, silent, refusing food, pacing the edge of the shelter until her paws bled. The elders argued over protocol, relocation, forced bonding, sedation. Ashka stepped forward. "Give her to me," she said. The cub arrived shaking, eyes wild, body tight with fear. Ashka did not rush her. She sat at a distance. She did not speak at first. She waited. When she finally did speak, her voice was calm. "I know what you're doing," Ashka said. "You're looking for them." The cub froze. Ashka told her a story about a pack lost to fire in silence, about endless walking, about a human who did not try to fix her. The cub listened. Days passed, then weeks. Slowly, the pacing slowed. Food was taken. Sleep returned in short bursts. Ashka helped the cub speak the names of her family, helped her draw them, helped her. Remember, the elders watched from afar, quiet now. When the cub was ready, she did not cling to Ashka. She chose a place among the others, on her own terms. That night, Ashka stood alone at the ridge. The wind carried distant howls from many packs now. Some had begun to adopt the ritual, speaking names, marking memories, carrying their dead forward instead of burying them in silence. Ashka lifted her head and howled once. Not in grief, not in pain, in gratitude, because long ago when she was small and breaking, someone taught her that surviving did not mean forgetting. And now that lesson lived on.